Hey nerds, it's been a while, but I'm back. This is a review of Atypical, which is a new show or newest show on Netflix about 18-year-old guy with ASD who is trying to find romantic fulfillment. It's also has to do with his family and his community and how they all respond, react, and are affected by uh, this person who has autism. The show is, in a one way, about educating people about autism because it clearly lays out certain things that you will find in like an after school special. If the after school special happened to be about autism, except every episode was about it. Um, Not to say that it's not a good show. It's definitely well done. The actors they selected are really good. You'll definitely recognize at least a few of the faces, and it's overwhelmingly uncomfortable. Um, there are a lot of awkward situations. Certain things that if you were there, it might be embarrassing or uh, just, I guess, really cringy to be around. Um, it tries to portray a reality of ASD that is very narrow. I will say that from what I've read of people uh, who have been diagnosed with autism who've seen the show, a lot of those people feel at least a little misrepresented, or at the very least that it's been um, it only shows one kind of person, and the the depth and difficulties of which someone with ASD isn't really shown. That being said, for someone who knows nothing about autism at all, or very, very little, it is definitely an entertaining and dramatic educational experience. Um, as someone who believes they might actually have autism and uh, is in the middle of trying to get diagnosis, I guess, uh, which is really hard and weird to say. I've been thinking about even making this video because I can't really talk about this show and not talk about my own personal experience watching the show because um, despite the fact that the show is not very diverse racially, uh, and the fact that the representation is very narrow, despite those things, that for other shows might definitely have distracted me from like the show as a whole, or might have taken away from everything else I would have absorbed from it. I felt like I was deeply resonating with the experience of the main character, obviously in different degrees. Like definitely because of the fact that I've lived up to the age of 25 before or at the very least the age of 24, been seriously questioning my neurodiversity and what what's up with me, I guess. It was a very opening experience for me to watch this show. Um, Seeing some of the things that the character went through, I could see in myself because of the main difference of a person having a fully supportive environment with people who are fully invested in the success of that person. definitely makes a huge difference. But I think awareness is very important, and I'm still stepping into the conversation, so I'm definitely in no way, I can't even say intermediary on a lot of the issues that anyone who has diagnosis and anyone who is challenged, anyone who is challenged to a point of complication of their lives and their livelihood and social judgment. I can't speak on a lot of that. But I can speak to the fact that I believe media is a bridge. It allows us to connect experiences within our lives to things that sometimes we'd never have any sort of awareness of, or something that could never happen, or something that is super far-fetched, like RoboCop or something. I think that media is important, and I think that even if something isn't as PC as you want, or isn't as emotionally attentive as you want, doesn't mean that the things that it's trying to do are bad or wrong, or there's no point to it. Obviously, the dramatization of events in Atypical is done so that you want to continue watching, that you want to follow it. The show has a very particular structure. It has a lot of voiceovers from the main character in therapy, talking about the ways he navigates life. I think this is the main way that anyone is going to connect with a character, because I feel that even someone who is atypical would benefit from watching the show from an empathy perspective, because we're all human, and I think that like the human struggle of understanding each other and kind of being on the same page is something we all face, and I think that's something we tend to forget when we anyone like tries to think of someone who's different from them, especially different from them in the way of your mind. I didn't know how to say it to not step on any toes. It's kind of hard. This is a really hard video to make. I wasn't talking as much about the show as I kind of wanted to, but I also don't want to spoil too much, because it does feel like the show is very tight. It's written very tight. It has a little bit more time per episode than a usual like a 30-minute drama. It's kind of in the ballpark of kind of like a Degrassi feel, with just maybe just a little bit more raunch. Well, I mean, they shot someone in Degrassi, so I don't know if there's no overwhelming violence or anything, so it's pretty easy to show someone who's younger. It does have a lot of sexual elements, especially because a big part of the show is romance, and we do have a character who's 18 and trying to get into more intimate physical relations with people and trying to understand himself better. But they do focus attention on his sister and his two parents, all of which have their own journeys and have their own levels of handling the emotional needs of not just him but each other, because having a dynamic that one person needs to be paid attention to, like to a certain degree, and people need to be like on high alert and aware of what this person needs and like certain accommodations is very well woven into how they deal with each other, and it creates a dynamic that's a little bit more sweet than a typical nuclear family would create if the show was just about the modern struggles of an American family in the suburbs. But considering that they basically juggle about 4 or 5 different subplots in an 8 episode season does quite well, and there's a lot of entanglements, and it's very soap opera-ish in the way of relationships and lying and the push and pull, but a lot of the relationships are really wholesome, and I think especially in terms of like the kids and the parents, I think there's like this richness to the stories that sometimes it's hard to keep a balance when you have a show about the relationships of young adults, and then you also have relationships of adults. And because this all has to do with sets, it does make it, I guess, harder to make everyone feel real, because when you are dealing with characters like 15 to like 40 in their sexual and romantic endeavors, it is that is actually quite typical of like a modern drama, I guess. But I do think that I think it all works well. I hope it gets a second season. I'd love to see more. And I'd love for them to dig down deep and hopefully have more autistic characters in the show itself. Other than Sam, the main character, there's only one other autistic person we really see. And they're kind of shown as like almost a parallel to Sam. There's not much difference between how the two characters seem to react to the world, so it doesn't really show you the diversity in which autism spectrum disorder can be between people. There's scenes of a support group of parents of autistic children, but most of those children aren't shown. I'm 99% sure the person who plays Sam is not autistic. I don't know if there's anyone autistic who's actually plays anyone on the show. I definitely am interested to find out. Hopefully I'll probably follow up a blog about this, since considering I've already opened up about it, if somehow I get a diagnosis, then that would make it more relevant going in the future if I was going to do a review of the second season, or if I was going to say make a video kind of discussing the pitfalls and the triumphs of a show such as this. I do want to say that I'm glad Netflix is putting so much stock into all these different kinds of stories, all these different kinds of shows, and not just going with what people want. I know since Orange is the New Black and the Netflix Marvel series have been so popular, and they've just been the kind of steamrolling and like getting rid of shows that certain people really like Sense8. That hurt me too. I think that sometimes, especially right now, it's hard to be like fully supportive of every new show that Netflix throws out, because there's so many every single month, I feel like, almost, which adds to the stress of, if your favorite show doesn't get a new season, then you're not going to be happy. And I don't know if Atypical has been renewed for a second season, but they definitely set it up like it should, and I think it would be awesome to continue on. I don't think that anything it's doing badly or wrong is so wrong that it shouldn't continue, because I think the overall net gain of such a show in existence is great. Plus, the Netflix formula of it all dropping at once is really nice, because not having to wait so long for the episodes is something that is particularly good about this show, at least for me, because Watching it at my own pace was really helpful. I'm not trying to keep up with it as it comes out like I have to do constantly with Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or Rick and Morty. It's just, you know. So now I don't have to wait. Now I don't have to worry about it for like a year, and then I'll watch it all at once, and then we do one of these reviews, and I cry a little bit, and then, all over again if it gets a third season. Um, I don't think there's really much else to say. This is already a pretty long review, but I mean, my reviews are always longer than just off the seats anyway, so I'm not that perturbed, especially since you guys have, oh, you folks haven't seen my face in a while. So I just want to say hi, let you guys know I'm doing all right. And yeah, lots of things are happening. So a little bit more about my life and myself. So that's cool. Hopefully, I'll be doing more vlogs. So not just doing stuff that's reviews and you know our usual banter. I hope you nerds are having or had a good summer if you're back in school. And keep on discovering who you are.